The Art of Possibility, Transforming Professional and Personal Life by Rosamund Zander and Benjamin Zander. Picture this. Two shoe company scouts arrive in a remote African village. After a few days of observation, the first scout sends a telegram back to headquarters. Situation hopeless. No one wears shoes. He sees nothing but failure. The second scout? His message reads, glorious business opportunity. They have no shoes. Same village, same barefoot people, same facts. Yet these two scouts might as well have visited different planets. The only thing that changed was the story they told themselves about what they were seeing. Since its publication in 2000, it's become a quiet classic, a beloved guide for leaders, artists, parents, and anyone who's ever felt trapped by circumstances. Instead of quick fixes or life hacks, it offers 12 practices, 12 fundamental shifts in thinking and being that can transform your entire world. The book's radical suggestion: many of the walls blocking your path, the problems that seem impossible to solve, aren't actually real barriers. They're simply the edges of a box you've drawn around yourself. By the time we finish this journey together, you'll have a completely new lens for viewing your life. You'll understand that the world doesn't just happen to you. It unfolds according to the story you tell about it. You'll learn how to change that story, and, in doing so, unlock levels of creativity, joy, and connection you may have thought were reserved for other people. This is more than a book summary. It's a map to new territory, a place where everything is possible. So where do we begin? With the most fundamental, powerful, and perhaps startling practice of all. It's the idea that underpins everything else in the Zanders philosophy. The first practice is simply this: it's all invented. Think about that for a moment. It's all invented. The way you see the world is a story, a construction, a map you've created in your mind. It's not the world itself. As the Zanders explain, our brains aren't passive cameras recording reality. They're active storytellers, constantly weaving together selective information to create a narrative that makes sense. A narrative designed, above all else, for survival. Take a frog, for instance. It doesn't see beautiful sunsets. Its eye is wired to perceive only 4 things: lines of contrast, changes in light, moving outlines, and the curve of small, dark objects. Why? Because that's all it needs to catch bugs and avoid becoming a stork's dinner. Its reality is invented by its biology. Ours is too, just in a far more complex way. We're constantly making assumptions, creating categories, and spinning stories without even realizing we're doing it. The Zanders illustrate this with a classic puzzle you might have seen. Imagine 9 dots arranged in a square, 3 rows of 3. Your challenge? Connect all 9 dots using only 4 straight lines without lifting your pen from the paper. If you've never tried this, you'll almost certainly do what everyone does. You'll try to solve it inside the box formed by the outer dots. You'll draw lines from dot to dot, but you'll never let your pen venture beyond that imaginary square. Within that frame, it's impossible. You'll run out of lines every single time. The solution requires breaking an unspoken rule you invented for yourself. The lines must extend beyond the dots, into the white space of the page. The moment you realize the box isn't real, the solution becomes obvious. Your brain created a prison that wasn't there. This is the heart of It's All Invented. It's not about denying facts. It's about recognizing that the meaning we give those facts, the frame we draw around them, is our own creation. Those 2 shoe scouts saw the same fact. No one wore shoes, but they lived in completely different worlds because they invented 2 different stories about that fact. One told a story of limitation, the other, a story of possibility. Once you truly grasp this, a powerful question emerges. If it's all invented anyway, why not invent a story that enlivens you, opens up new choices, and serves both you and the people around you? This leads directly to the second practice, which is about choosing which world to invent. The Zanders describe 2 distinct universes we can inhabit. Most of us, most of the time, wake up in what they call the world of measurement. The world of measurement is built on a single hidden assumption: survival. It's a world of scarcity, comparison, and competition. Life becomes a hierarchy, a ladder to climb. There are winners and losers, people making it, and people falling behind. In this world, we know ourselves and others through assessing, grading, and judging. Am I smart enough, successful enough, better than them? Is there enough time, money, or love to go around? That little voice in your head is almost always broadcasting from Measurement Central. It's a world governed by fear. The fear of not being good enough, of being left out, of failure. It's the world of that 9-dot box. But there's another place to live. The second practice is stepping into a universe of possibility. This universe isn't about survival. It's about creation and abundance. It's a world of what if instead of what's wrong. It's generative, open, and infinite. The pie is enormous, and when you take a slice, the pie becomes whole again. In this world, we don't assess people. We gain knowledge through invention. We don't strive for success. We look for how we can contribute. It's a world of joy, grace, and connection. This isn't some fantasy land. It's a posture, an orientation. You don't get there by achieving something. You get there by declaring it. You simply step into it. The Zanders say you know you're there when you stop asking, is it enough? And start asking, how can I be a contribution? This sounds wonderful, but how do we actually do it? How do we leave the familiar, anxious world of measurement and step into this vast, open space? That's where the next set of practices comes in. They're the tools for living in the universe of possibility. One of the most beautiful and practical is the third practice, giving an A. Benjamin Zander tells a wonderful story about his graduate class at the New England Conservatory. For years, he struggled with the fact that his brilliant, talented music students were paralyzed by anxiety. They were so afraid of making mistakes, so terrified of getting a B instead of an A, that they couldn't take the risks necessary to become great artists. So one year, he decided to try an experiment. On the very first day of class, he announced, "Every single one of you will get an A for the semester." But there was one condition. Each student had to write him a letter, dated for the end of the semester the following May. The letter had to begin, "Dear Mr. Zander, I got my A because..." In this letter, they had to describe in the past tense who they had become by that future date to earn this A. They had to tell the story of the person they would be, the breakthroughs they would make, the insights they would gain, as if it had already happened. He told them to fall passionately in love with the person they were describing. The results were transformative. By giving them the A from the start, he removed the anxiety of measurement. He shifted their focus from striving and fear to living into a possibility they themselves had created. The person they described in the letter became the person he taught all semester. Their job was no longer to impress him, but to grow into the A they'd already been given. One young Taiwanese student captured what Zander calls the secret of life. He stood up in class and said, "In Taiwan, I was number 68 out of 70 students. I come to Boston, and Mr. Zander says I am an A. Very confusing. For 3 weeks, I am very confused. I am number 68, but Mr. Zander says I am an A. One day, I discover it is much happier to be an A than number 68. So I decide, I am an A." He realized it's all invented. Number 68 is an invention. An A is an invention. We can choose the invention that makes our life, and the lives of those around us, brighter. Giving an A isn't about lowering standards or ignoring poor performance. It's a shift in your stance. It's looking at someone and seeing the statue inside the block of marble. It's speaking to their potential, to their A student self, even when they're struggling. It's an attitude that says, I see the magnificent person you can be, and I will treat you as that person. You can give an A to your boss, your parents, the person taking your order at a restaurant. It's a possibility to live into, not an expectation to live up to. This practice flows beautifully into the fourth, being a contribution. The Zanders begin this section with the memorable story of a young woman on a beach littered with thousands of starfish washed ashore by the tide. She's picking them up, one by one, throwing them back into the ocean. A man walks by and says, "There are stranded starfish as far as the eye can see, for miles up the beach. What difference can saving a few possibly make?" The woman smiles, bends down, picks up another starfish, and tosses it into the waves. "It certainly makes a difference to this one." In the world of measurement, we're obsessed with success and failure. We're constantly asking, "What did I achieve today? Was it enough?" Benjamin Zander shares how this question haunted his childhood dinner table and followed him into adulthood, creating a constant hum of anxiety. The game of success and failure is exhausting because no matter how much you achieve, the bar just keeps moving higher. The alternative? Play a different game entirely, the game of contribution. In this game, the question isn't "what did I get?" but "what did I give?" It's not "am I successful?" but "how did I make a difference?" The beautiful thing about contribution is that, unlike success, it has no other side. There's no such thing as failing at contribution. You just do it. When you declare yourself a contribution, you wake up each day as a gift to others. This isn't about being a martyr or sacrificing your own needs. It's a shift in focus that's incredibly liberating. Suddenly, you stop looking over your shoulder to see if someone else is doing better. You stop measuring yourself against others. You become present to the people in front of you and ask, "How can I be a gift to this person in this moment?" Mary Ann, a woman in Roz's therapy practice, provides a powerful example. Every year, she had to ask her wealthy, frugal mother for money to pay her taxes, an experience she found humiliating. Her mother would lecture her before grudgingly giving her the bare minimum. Mary Ann was stuck in a story of failure and resentment. Roz reframed the situation. Instead of seeing herself as a failure, asking for a handout, what if Mary Ann saw herself as a contribution to her mother? What if she offered her mother the opportunity to make a real, joyful difference in her family's life? Instead of asking for the $2,000 she needed to scrape by, Roz asked, "What's the amount that would truly give you and your family ease?" The number was 20 times larger. Mary Ann went to her mother not as a beggar, but as a daughter, offering her mother a chance to be a joyful contributor to her family's well-being. And her mother leapt at it. She was thrilled to do something so meaningful. The story doesn't end there. Her mother then gave the same amount to her other two daughters, out of the blue. Mary Ann's shift from scarcity to contribution created ripples of abundance throughout her entire family. Now, if everyone is a contribution and everyone is an A student, what does that mean for leadership? This brings us to the fifth practice, leading from any chair. In the traditional view, the leader is the person at the front of the room, on the podium, in the corner office. The conductor, for example, seems like the ultimate leader. He makes no sound himself, yet controls 100 musicians. But Benjamin Zander came to a profound realization. His true power came not from controlling people, but from his ability to make other people powerful. A leader's job isn't to have all the ideas. It's to create a space where ideas can be born. Suddenly, the orchestra wasn't a hierarchy with one leader. It was a network of 100 leaders. Zander tells the story of Eugene Lehner, a legendary violist who played for decades in the Boston Symphony. Lehner was one of the most insightful musicians in the world. Yet in all his years, no visiting conductor ever once asked for his opinion. But Lehner had a secret. He said in every rehearsal, "I have been waiting for the conductor to say, 'Lehner, you come up here and conduct. I want to go to the back of the hall to hear how it sounds.' It is now 43 years, and it is less and less likely that I will be asked. However, in the meantime, I haven't had a single dull moment as I sit wondering what I would say to the orchestra should I suddenly be called upon to lead." Eugene Lehner was leading from his chair every single day. Leadership isn't a position, it's a way of being. It's about seeing a possibility and taking responsibility for it, from wherever you are. You can lead from the back of the cello section, from the intern's desk, from the passenger seat of the car. It's about listening for passion and commitment in others, and empowering them to shine. Of course, getting caught up in our own importance is one of the biggest obstacles to leading from any chair or to any of these practices. We start taking ourselves, our opinions, and our problems very, very seriously. And for that, the Zanders have a wonderfully simple and profound cure. It's the sixth practice, rule number 6. The story goes like this. 2 prime ministers are meeting to discuss affairs of state. Suddenly, a man bursts into the room, red-faced and furious, shouting and banging his fist on the desk. The host prime minister calmly says, "Peter, kindly remember rule number 6. Instantly, Peter calms down, apologizes, and leaves the room. A little while later, a woman rushes in, hysterical and gesticulating wildly. Again, the prime minister says, "Marie, please remember rule number 6. She too becomes completely calm and withdraws. The visiting prime minister is astonished. "My friend, I must know the secret of this rule number 6. "It's very simple," the host replies. "Rule number 6 is, don't take yourself so goddamn seriously." "That's a brilliant rule," says the visitor. "But may I ask, what are the other rules?" His friend smiles. "There aren't any." This practice is about recognizing what the Zanders call our calculating self, the part of us that's always scanning for threats, trying to control things, jockeying for position, and worrying about how we look. It's the voice of our inner child trying to get out of childhood alive. It's the part that gets caught in the drama and forgets the bigger picture. It's the part that lobbies to be taken very, very seriously. Rule number 6 is a gentle reminder to lighten up. It's an invitation to step back from the calculating self and connect with what they call the central self, the creative, compassionate, and expansive part of our being. Humor is one of the best ways to do this, when you can laugh at your own absurdity, at your own attachments and entitlements. You break the spell of the calculating self. You create space. Roz tells the story of June, a woman in one of her accomplishment groups who was going through a bitter separation from her husband Mark, whom she'd labeled a quote, a quote, quote, a quote, 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 quote. The group decided to play a game called Have the Best Blank Ever, and they chose the word sex. June was appalled. How could she possibly play this game? She'd built a fortress of righteousness around herself. But the game was afoot. She started by asking herself, what would have to change for this to be possible? The answer from her calculating self was immediate. Mark would have to change. But then she remembered rule number 6. She thought, why can't you have the best sex ever with a self-centered guy? Lighten up. The moment she stopped taking her story so seriously, a new possibility appeared. She called him. To her surprise, he was empathetic and sensitive. They spent an evening together that was, in her words, like coming home. By letting go of her rigid story, she opened the door to a new reality. She realized she finally had a choice. She could leave the marriage without being embattled, or she could stay and build something new. The lightness of rule number 6 gave her back her freedom. Now, a crucial part of living in possibility is how we deal with things we don't like, the setbacks, disappointments, unpleasant realities. This is the 7th practice, being present to the way things are. There's a little dialogue from the movie Babe that captures the 2 common reactions to difficulty. The farm animals are watching in horror as a duck is served up for Christmas dinner. Ferdinand the duck wails, "The way things are stinks." The cow, ever resigned, replies, "The only way to find happiness is to accept that the way things are is the way things are." The Zanders suggest a third way. It's not the spluttering resistance of the duck, nor the hopeless resignation of the cow. It's about being present to reality, including our feelings about reality, without resistance. Imagine you're on vacation in Florida and it's pouring rain. You can spend the whole time fighting it, complaining about how it should be sunny. That's resistance. Or you can slump into depression and say, well, this is just my luck. The whole vacation is ruined. That's resignation. The practice of the way things are is to simply say, we are in Florida for our vacation, and it is raining. This is disappointing, and this is the way things are. The moment you stop resisting, you become free to ask the next question. So what do we want to do from here? Possibility opens up. You can read a book, go to a movie, have a great conversation, or even walk in the rain. This practice is about distinguishing facts from our judgments about them. Roz tells of a ski trip where she fell on a patch of ice and became tense and fearful. She was resisting the ice. Then she had a realization. If she was going to be a New England skier, she'd better include ice in her definition of skiing. The moment she reframed ice from a threat to just another part of the terrain, her body relaxed and she could ski over it gracefully. This is also about avoiding what the Zanders call downward spiral talk, the kind of conversation that focuses only on problems and limitations. The audience for classical music is dying out. Kids these days have no attention span. The economy is terrible. When you shine your attention on problems, they multiply. When you start from the way things are, you can then turn your attention to the open spaces, the pathways leading forward. When we're fully present without resistance, we can connect to a deeper source of energy. This is the 8th practice, giving way to passion. This isn't about manufacturing excitement. It's about tapping into the vibrant, generative energy that's already flowing through the universe. It's about letting go of the barriers of self-consciousness and control that keep us separate and allowing that energy to move through us. Roz describes standing by a roaring river in the spring, the ice breaking up with tremendous force. Her first instinct was to pull back, to protect herself from the overwhelming power. But then she made a choice. She decided to let its force run through me. She surrendered to it, and in that moment, she connected to a passion far greater than her own. In music, this is what Benjamin Zander calls finding the long line. A musician can get lost in playing each individual note perfectly, focusing on technique and precision. But a great performance comes from feeling the overarching sweep of the music, the phrase that carries over the bar lines, like a bird soaring on an updraft. He tells a story about a young pianist playing Chopin. The student understood the music intellectually, but his playing was heavy, earthbound. Zander noticed he was sitting perfectly centered on the piano bench. He blurted out, "The trouble is, you're a two-buttock player." He encouraged the student to lean into the music, to let his body flow with the long line, to become a one-buttock player. Suddenly, the music took flight. Giving way to passion is a physical act of surrender. It's about getting out of your head and into the flow. It's about moving from a place of calculation to a place of expression. It's what Zander calls playing BTFI, beyond the, well, you get the idea. It's that moment when you stop caring about getting it right and just let it rip. This energy of passion is what allows us to truly connect with others and inspire them. Which brings us to the 9th practice, lighting a spark, or the art of enrollment. Enrollment isn't persuasion or manipulation. It's not about getting someone to do what you want. It's about generating a spark of possibility and sharing it so enthusiastically that others want to play too. Ben tells a fantastic story about trying to get the legendary cellist Mstislav Rostropovich to play with his student orchestra. He called Rostropovich's assistant, who told him contemptuously that the maestro was booked for the next 4 years. A no from the world of measurement. But Ben remembered a lesson from his father. Certain things in life are better done in person. Instead of accepting the no, he flew from Boston to Washington, D.C. for a 20-minute meeting. He didn't go to argue or persuade. He went to talk about their shared passion, the music of composer Henri Dutilleux. As they spoke, Rostropovich's face lit up. The maestro caught the spark. He looked in his diary and found a way to make it happen, not because it was practical, but because he was enrolled in the possibility. Enrollment happens when you speak from your passion, not your agenda. Roz's story about the service station is a perfect, small-scale example. With a flat bicycle tire and no quarters for the air pump, she was met with a no from the attendants. They couldn't make change for her $10 bill. They were all stuck in a world of scarcity. Then she had a shift. She stopped seeing them as obstacles and saw them as partners in a shared predicament. She stepped out of the transaction and into connection. She simply asked, "Will you give me 2 quarters?" The request, coming from a place of possibility and shared humanity, changed everything. The man's face lit up. "Yes," he said, and reached into his pocket. Suddenly they were a team solving a problem together. That is enrollment. Now we arrive at the graduate course. The final 3 practices are the most challenging and the most powerful. They integrate everything that's come before. The 10th practice is being the board. Imagine a game of chess. You could identify as one of the pieces, the king, a pawn, a knight, trying to win the game. Or you could see yourself as the strategist controlling the pieces. But this practice asks you to do something far more radical. It asks you to define yourself as the board itself, the framework within which the entire game is being played. This is a profound form of responsibility. It's not about blame. It's about declaring, "I am the framework for everything that happens in my life." Let's say you're sitting at a red light and a drunk driver smashes into you. In the world of blame, he's 100% at fault. But in the practice of being the board, you ask a different question. How did this event get on the board that I am? This isn't self-blame. You don't say, "It's my fault." Instead, you might recognize, "Every time I get in a car, I accept a certain statistical risk. Driving is a hazardous business. That risk is part of the game I chose to play." By owning the entire context, you reclaim your power. You're no longer a victim of circumstances. You're the framework in which circumstances occur. This frees you to move on gracefully, without the burden of resentment. Ben tells a story of conducting a symphony when a single violinist came in early, a glaring mistake in front of 1,000 people. He stopped the orchestra and started again. Afterwards, someone from the orchestra came up and asked conspiratorially, "Would you like to know who it was?" Without thinking, Ben said, "No, I did it." He didn't mean he literally played the note. He meant that as the conductor, as the framework for the performance, he was responsible for everything that happened. Blaming the player would only create division. By saying, "I did it," he preserved the integrity of the whole orchestra. He was being the board. This practice requires you to look at any problem and say, "Some assumption I'm making is the source of my difficulty." It allows you to transform your experience of any unwanted situation. The 11th practice builds on this, creating frameworks for possibility. This is the work of a true leader. A leader's job is to articulate a vision so compelling that it pulls people out of the downward spiral and into a universe of possibility. The Zanders are very specific about what a true vision is. It's not a mission statement about being number one. A true vision articulates a possibility that's universal, speaks to a fundamental human desire, and to which no one could logically respond, "What about me?" A vision for an international food company might be a world in ethical, sustainable partnership. A vision for a group of army officers could be the possibility of a world living in freedom. These aren't goals to be achieved. They're contexts to live in right now. The story of the second-grade teacher whose student returned to school after chemotherapy, bald and wearing a scarf, is a perfect example. The other children, in their fear, mocked her and pulled off her scarf. The girl was humiliated. The next day, the teacher walked into the classroom, took off her own coat and scarf, and revealed that she too had completely shaved her head. She didn't give a lecture about bullying. She created a new framework. She reframed baldness from something to be feared into a game of solidarity and connection. She embodied the vision. That is leadership. Finally, we come to the 12th and culminating practice, telling the we story. So much of our history and daily lives are defined by conflict between an us and a them. This practice is about dissolving that barrier. It's about looking for the unseen entity that connects us all, the we. The we isn't just you plus me, it's the relationship, the in-between, the shared space. You bring it into being by telling its story. Ben's father, Walter Zander, demonstrated this beautifully. He was speaking to a group of students about the conflict in the Middle East. First, he told the entire 4,000-year history of the Jewish people, full of passion and pride. He brought their story right up to the land of Palestine in 1947. Then he went back and told the entire 4,000-year history of the Arab people, with equal passion and equal pride, bringing their story to the very same sliver of land in the very same year. When he was done, one of the students exclaimed, "What a wonderful opportunity! What a privilege for both those peoples to share that land and that history." By telling both stories as part of a larger we, Walter Zander had created a framework where conflict dissolved into opportunity. When you're in a conflict, instead of asking, "What do I want?" or "What do you want?" the practice is to ask, "What do we want to have happen here? What's best for us?" This question shifts the focus from individual positions to the health of the relationship, the entity of we. The Zanders point to South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission as a real-world example of telling the we story on a national scale. Instead of seeking vengeance after apartheid, they created a framework for understanding. The vision was a need for Ubuntu, brotherhood, but not for victimization. It was about bringing the whole painful story into the light so that the we of the nation could begin to heal and take the next step together. And that's the journey through the art of possibility. It starts with the simple, world-altering realization that it's all invented. It takes us through the practices that allow us to live in a universe of our own creation, giving an A, being a contribution, leading from any chair. It teaches us how to navigate that universe with grace and passion, and it ends by inviting us to dissolve the very idea of other, and to live in the expansive, connected story of we. It's a journey from a single note to a symphony. As we come to the end of this exploration, I find myself thinking about what makes the art of possibility so enduring. In a world filled with books offering strategies for optimization and success, this one feels different. It doesn't offer a system to follow. It offers a world to inhabit. The most powerful lesson for me is the idea of practice. The Zanders, a musician and a therapist, understand that transformation doesn't come from a single insight. It comes from practice. Just as a cellist must practice scales every day to play Bach, we must practice these ways of seeing the world until they become second nature. The book is a profound challenge to the victim mentality that can so easily creep into our lives. The practice of being the bored, in particular, is one of the most demanding and liberating ideas I've ever encountered. To truly take responsibility for everything in our experience, not as blame, but as context, is to reclaim an incredible amount of power from the world. It's a shift from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to "How is this happening in me?" What can you do with this, right now, today? Let me offer 3 simple starting points. First, try giving and pick one person in your life, a family member, a teacher, a friend, with whom you've been feeling some friction. For the rest of today, decide to interact with them as if they're an A student in your life. Speak to their potential, their intelligence, their goodness. Don't mention it, just do it. See what happens to the space between you. Second, listen for downward spiral talk. Listen for it in your own thoughts and in your conversations. The moment you catch yourself or someone else speaking from a place of limitation and problems, gently ask, "What is the possibility we're not seeing here?" Just asking the question can be enough to break the spell. And finally, carry rule number 6 with you. Write it on a sticky note. Put it on your mirror. The next time you feel yourself getting frustrated, angry, or self-important, just whisper it to yourself. Don't take yourself so goddamn seriously. It's amazing how a little bit of lightness can change everything. That was a deep dive into The Art of Possibility by Rosamund and Benjamin Zander. We've walked through the core practices today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary can only ever be a signpost, pointing you toward a destination. The real journey happens when you walk the path yourself. It's in the quiet moments when a story or a simple phrase from the book resonates with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you see if this is a journey you want to take. If anything we've discussed today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the frame around your life. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to explore more life-changing books from the Billionaire's Bookshelf, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful ideas to more people. Let's keep growing together.